I am coming at you with a video that's gonna turn into a vlog that I've wanted to do for a while now, and that is finishing all the duologies that I have on my shelf. There aren't that many. There are only 6, and they're all pretty short. All of these are duologies that have only one book left that I haven't read. I do have duologies on my shelf that I haven't read either book of. So let's get into the 6 books that will finish all the duologies on my bookshelf. So I'm gonna go in order of books I'm the least excited to read to books that I'm the most excited to read. So first up, we have Steel Striker by Marie Lu. This is the second book in the Sky Hunter duology. We have A Curse of Gold by Annie Sullivan. This is the second book in the A Touch of Gold duology. We have All the Tides of Fate by Adeline Grace. This is the second one in the All the Stars and Teeth duology. We have Namesake by Adrienne Young. This is the second one in the Fable duology. Next up, second to last, we have Evermore by Sarah Holland. This is the second book in the Everless duology. Oh my god, deckled edges. And finally, the one I'm the most excited to read is Devil in the Device by Laura Beth Johnson. This is the second book in the Goddess in the Machine duology. So these are all the books. Oh, a very purpley vibe. They're all upside down. I don't know which one I'm gonna start with.
A few moments later.
I think just looking at them, I think I decided. I think I'm gonna start with Evermore. I remember really loving the first book. I know it was sort of towards the top of like books I'm the most excited for, but I feel like it's a good middle ground starting point. It's also not long at all. Okay, y'all. I finally started Evermore. I realized that like it's told in the first person, which I'm not used to, even though I have read books told in first person pretty recently. I think this one is just gonna be a bit cringe about it. And I did realize that all the books that are on my duology TBR, or most of them, are told in first person. And they're also all like young adult fantasy, dystopia, stuff like that. So I'm not expecting much. I'm expecting a bunch of very average books. They're for a younger audience than the books that I have been reading recently. So I'm not expecting anything. I'm just gonna read and see what happens. So I'm 70 ebook pages into this book, and so much stuff has happened. It's about 50 pages in the actual book. But it's like she's been in like 3 different places, and I feel like I'm just really speeding even though I'm not. So I'm just so confused as to like, not like I know what's going on, I'm just like confused as to like why this is just zooming so fast. And I'm also just like lost in terms of like, where is this going? I don't get it. Okay, so I'm 160 pages. I'm like 40 pages from halfway, and I needed to do this update because if I don't do it now, it won't happen. And I'm having like current thoughts. First of all, I have decided that this is just gonna be a spoilery vlog because I cannot like, I can't say anything about any of these books because they're all sequels. So, Evermore, second book in the Everless duology. In Everless, we're following Jules Ember, who lives in this society where time is currency. So you pay, they like prick you, they take your blood and they turn it into money, like coins. So it's like you pay in years, and if you lose years, that's just like how you pay for stuff. And she's always been told stories about the sorceress and the alchemist, who are like enemies. I don't remember why, but they are. And the alchemist, I believe, is the person who created this system of paying with your blood, aka your time. So she goes to live at the palace where she's like I think, a servant type person. There's this other girl, Caro, who is like, I think, her friend, but at the end, it's revealed that Caro is like evil, and she kills the queen and the prince, who Jules was like sort of in love with. And she reveals that Caro is the sorceress and Jules is the alchemist. The alchemist has lived like 11 lives, and this is the 12th life, and after 12 lives, it's like the alchemist is dead forever. And so Jules is the alchemist. She's on her 12th life. This is it. So Caro was trying to like kill her, who's also the sorceress. Caro was trying to kill her because I think she stole her heart. I don't know how, but it's fantasy. And Jules doesn't know any of this. Like, she doesn't remember any of her past lives. So she's kind of just like stumbling around, like completely like doesn't know anything, like doesn't know what's going on. And so she runs away. That's the end of Everless. Evermore starts out, she's in her town where she grew up. Her best friend gets killed and she gets captured by servants of Caro, who is serving the queen, but it's one of those situations where the queen doesn't know who's actually in charge. So she gets captured, taken back to the palace, and then the other prince, the prince's brother, Liam, helps her escape instantly. And this is what I was talking about earlier, where so many things just happened and it was only like 100 pages. The plan was to like leave the country, but she was like, no, I have to stay and fight. But the reason I had to come on here and like talk is that Liam, the prince, like the second prince, knows way too much. He knows way too much about Jules, about the story. Like, he's the one, I'm pretty sure, who like figured out that she was the alchemist and like helped her escape and like gave her her journal from her past lives. He's always just like doing things that are way too convenient, and it's rubbing me the wrong way. And I'm like, okay, so this man is either the villain, like one of the like maybe like secondary villain, and I already guessed it, or since Jules has forgotten everything that has ever happened, is completely lost, like has forgotten everything about everything that has happened in her life, essentially, for her past 11 lives. The author like needed someone to like guide her, and like someone who knows everything based on like the books he's read and stuff. So I don't like either of those two explanations. like general things about the book. It's very easy to read, it's fast-paced. So there's only like 2 main plot points that you have to like keep track of, and everything's like laid out for you, and like it's very easy to track. I'm almost halfway through and I feel like I haven't read it. Like, I feel like I've read like 50 pages and I'm like halfway. That's where I'm at now. That's where my brain's at. I'm gonna keep reading and it's gonna be great. First of all, thanks, Libby, for being so dramatic. One word on the page, but also this is just really dramatic in general. Like, why? Wow, I've been laying on my side for a while reading, but I'm kind of realizing that I feel like I mentioned before that she doesn't have any memories of her past lives, and she's trying to like get them back. But I'm like, I would rather just read from like an experienced alchemist's perspective. It's kind of frustrating where she's constantly like, oh, I wish I remembered, I wish I knew. And I'm just like, yeah, me too. I made it halfway though. So I finished Evermore. Where I last left off, they were kind of just traipsing around searching for her memories, and that's all that happened. Nothing else really happened. It was just a constant slew of her trying to get her memories back. Liam, the prince, is not evil. He was just a narrator that like turned into the love interest, which I don't understand, but that's what happened. It was very just like mediocre in general. She gets all her memories back. Essentially, she realizes that like she actually killed Caro to defeat this other like evil father figure in their lives who was actually like pulling all the strings to make them hate each other, and who invented the way to pay with your blood. So she kills Caro by giving her heart back. Like, I'm pretty sure she gave Caro's heart back somehow, but that killed her. So I don't really understand it. The like relationship between the two of them was strange at best. That being said, I'm gonna give it 3 stars, which is expected. It was a average YA fantasy story. Like, it feels like something you would tell in like very short form at like a campfire somewhere, which I liked. The concept was also really, really interesting and intriguing. Like, I've never seen that done before, so that was a big selling point for me, and the reason it's not less than 3 stars. But I did give Everless 4 stars, but I think that that was because she was her own person. Jules was her own person at the time, and at the end of Everless, she got this news that like she's the alchemist and she doesn't have the memories from like a lot of time. So she doesn't feel like a person in this book. Like, it feels like more of someone trying to figure out their identity, which I feel like doesn't work for a sequel. There were also a bunch of recurring characters who just like didn't get endings, like recurring characters who we've spent some time with who just didn't. Yeah, it was just a very, very quick wrap it all up in a bow type ending, which I feel like was unnecessary because it is so short. You could have tacked on like 10 pages. It would have been fine. So 1 duology down. And next is gonna be All the Tides of Fate, which I have decided on. I have not found a summary for All the Stars and Teeth, which is the first book, because I definitely need it because I have forgotten everything about that book. I have not found a summary yet. Once I do, I'm gonna read it. I found summaries. Turns out all I had to do was just hit -sign and then review, because all of them were reviews and it was frustrating, but I found them, gifs and everything. Oh my god. So I'm gonna go read this and then I'll start All the Tides of Fate. People seem to really love All the Stars and Teeth, so I'm way more excited than I was like 15 minutes ago. What is this, light lark? The point in the book that I'm at now, she's going around to all these different islands to try and find this magical artifact that she doesn't know like what it is, to bring her magic back. And she's gotten to the island that was like forsaken and like forlorn, the island that's like trying to secede from the country. And the lady there is like, thank you for your help, but like we kind of just want to be like left alone, and like you've never shown us aid. Like, Amora has never given them aid to the point where like she actually tried to like go and like see what was up and like help. And Amora's kind of being a dick about it. So like the person from the island is explaining like that she doesn't want her here because she hasn't actually helped them. And she's like, I understand where she's coming from, but I'm the queen and like I can do what I want. She's at this island that like needs her help, and she's trying to like look for a husband to like distract everybody from the fact that like she doesn't really have magic. And so the island like needs her help, and they don't want her like charade of trying to find a husband to like distract the people from the real problems. And she's like, oh, it doesn't matter, like I'm the queen, I can do whatever I want, I just need to find this magical artifact to bring me my powers back. And I'm like, that's a dick move. Like, you're kind of being a bitch in the face of like all of these like in need people that you serve as the queen. So don't judge me, but I'm listening to Pirates of the Caribbean. So this book is bothering me. I think it's because it's primarily set on the ocean, like on a boat, and there are pirates, and I just like don't vibe with pirate stories. I don't know why. So where I last left off, They are on the time magic island called Karast. Her primary goal is to find this artifact that can restore her magic. They're on this island and she finds out like the name of the person who might know where this artifact is. She also gets some publicity because she's like trying to find a husband. She's keeping the secret that she is looking for this magical artifact from everybody else, like her friends, her crew. And so she's being so selfish. Like, she has to come up with these like ludicrous explanations for like why they're like drastically altering their plans. 1, 2, she's like only concerned with like the optics of like how this like journey around the country is gonna look instead of like the general well-being of her people. And so this island that they're on, Karast, is the island that's trying to like leave the country, and all she cares about is like, how will this look into my image, instead of like actually trying to like get this island to like stay in the country that she rules. So it's frustrating me. Where I'm at now, they're on their way to this other island to search for this guy who might know where this magical artifact is to restore her powers, but none of her friends know. She was like, oh, we have to go to this other island first, even though we were planning on going to this island. And all of her friends are like, what? Why? And she was like, it just cuz. She's a terrible ruler. She's so selfish. She's so selfish. Like, they'll either love me or they'll hate me for lying to them. Like, what? You're the queen. What do you think is gonna happen? Okay, and now it's giving scandal. So I'm thinking more and more that I'm reading a villain origin story. We'll see. Girl, everybody knows that, like, bringing people back to life is a bad idea. Okay, so I'm 100 pages out from the end of All the Tides of Fate, and I've been writing in my notes app like every like 50 pages like what's happened, and I'm just gonna read it. So they're on the Mind Magic Island. Amora and Bastian can't like keep their emotions hidden. At the end of the first book, when they get cursed, Amora is like, oh, like, how do I know that like what I feel for him is real and not like part of the curse, even though they had feelings for each other before they got cursed? So that's frustrating me. And okay, right, so they're on the Mind Magic Island, and like it's the Bachelorette now. Like, she's like looking for a husband, and there are all these like suitors like vying for her attention. One of them poisons her because he wants the Mind Magic Island to secede as well from the country, and so they stop him, obviously, and like they make him go back to the castle to, I think, get executed. Unclear. But on the Mind Magic Island, they find out that the artifact that she's looking for is in a volcano, and it's been used in the past to try and steal the gods' powers, which is a definite no-no. So she lies and says that she's not going to use it. And so they go to this island, and they're like, that's where I'm at now. They're on the Elemental Magic Island, and they're being shown around. Most of them have like affinities for like one element, and like she doesn't, so she's like jealous and like having panic attacks. But this is what I wrote. She's just so selfish and has zero humility, but she's written like we're supposed to feel bad for her because she's having all these nightmares about like stuff that's happened in the past. And she keeps being like I'm the queen, I can do whatever I want. And it's still like, once I get this artifact, it'll all be okay. They'll all love me again. Some people have been suggesting that like, oh, maybe we like split off and like each island rules individually with like a round table of like governing people that come together and like make laws for their own countries, which like I personally think that's a great idea, and she has been like toying with the idea of that. Every once in a while she'll be like, oh, but like what if? But then she'll double back on it and be like, but I'm the queen. Like, how can I rule if that's a thing? And I'm like, she's just pissing me off. Anyway, they're on the Elemental Magic Island. She's probably gonna break off and like go into this volcano, which is like sacred to these people, to like find this magical artifact that will only benefit her. But she's like, oh, once I have my magic back, everyone will respect me again. And I'm like, no, they're all gonna hate you because you violated their sacred volcano, among other things. But like all that said, I am kind of enjoying it. It's kind of a vibe. Like the atmosphere is super cool. I think it's about a 3-star right now. So I finished All the Tides of Fate where I left you last. I have notes again, so I'm gonna read them. They're on the Elemental of Magic Island. She gets the artifact, which is a scale from like the gods, even though all the gods are like, don't do this, don't resurrect your dad, it's a bad thing, and they try and like stop her. So everyone on her ship, like her crew, finds out her plans, and one of them like leaves because she feels betrayed, and the other two talk to her and like snap her out of her selfishness. And then something I didn't mention because I didn't feel like it was important, but now it is that there was a guy who sent her on the quest, essentially, who's like a questionable bad guy, and he's the person who gave her the name of the person to find the artifact from. Turns out he is the person who like super long ago stole the same artifact and like turned back time to bring back somebody that he loved, which like had like disastrous consequences. Like he could never actually do it. Turns out it was this guy the whole time who like sent her on this quest, and he was just using her for personal gain. So they defeat him, and then they do the thing that I mentioned before, where instead of a monarchy, she turns it into like a democracy where every single island votes to elect a advisor for the island like every couple years, and then her and Bastion go out and like live happily ever after on their pirate ship. So I'm glad it's a duology. I gave it 4 stars, actually. I had a very good reaction to the ending. It was very unexpected. My issue with it, she was just pissing me off the entire time. But if I overlook that, I had a really good time reading it. Now that I've finished it, the main problem I have with it is that she had to be like talked into growing a conscience instead of just like going on the journey for herself and realizing that like what she was doing was not right for the general well-being of the kingdom. So I'm gonna start A Curse of Gold. I am going into this pretty blind. I have looked at some spoilers on Goodreads for A Touch of Gold, and I remember some of it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to give an accurate summary of the first one, so I'm just going to wait until I get into this, and hopefully that it'll explain some things. It's not a super well-known duology, so I'm not going to like busy myself with like trying to find a summary because I don't think one really exists. No way that something eerily similar to Lightlark has been mentioned 2 books in a row. So they met Triton a while ago, who's like Poseidon's son. And there have been like 20 mentions of his like abs. And I just like, I mean like valid. So I'm halfway through A Curse of Gold. This is gonna be a little bit strange just because I've seen a whole bunch of people doing videos on the Guild trilogy, which I have absolutely no interest in. But seeing all that and also reading a story about King Midas and his daughter, strange. But I have notes again. I'm gonna tell you what's up. So in the first book, we're following Cora, who's the daughter of King Midas, who was cursed by Dionysus with the golden touch. She has the power to turn things to gold and also like take the gold away from things. So it's a little bit different, but it's kind of cool actually. And so in the first book, she goes on like this hunt to like save his like missing treasure that somebody stole. But you don't really need to know all that for the second book. In this one, Dionysus like hates her because she shouldn't be alive after Midas turned her to gold. And so he's like super jealous. So he sends people to kill her, and then she's sent on a quest by the Oracle to defeat him. Where I'm at now, they have found Triton, who I mentioned, who is like the prince of the ocean. He is leading them to Dionysus's island, which like randomly appears, like, and you don't know when. So it's similar to All the Tides of Fate in that she's trying to prove to her subjects that she is fit to be a princess by defeating Dionysus, who is like trying to cause harm to her people. It is yet another story set on the ocean, piratey, although this one they spent a lot of time on the ocean floor in like bubbles of air, which I find super interesting. And it's like a weird take, new kind of interesting take on that. But I really love it. The way Annie Sullivan describes the relationship between mortals and gods, like living together essentially, they have way more toleration for each other than in most Greek mythology books. So that I find super interesting. They're like working together on a lot of things. It has absolutely perfect descriptions of like people and places. Like I feel like I'm absolutely in this book 100%. The writing is kind of just average. Like it's just a story again. It's a fun story that I'm having a good time reading. Like I like it a lot right now. See? Me listening to Pirates of the Caribbean was absolutely justified. So I finished it. I'm shocked. I haven't finished a book in one day in such a long time. I'm making dinner. I just thought I'd kill two birds with one stone. But so where I left you off, they were with Triton on the way to find this island with Dionysus. They had to kill some gorgons to make Pegasus to fly to the island. And then they get to the island, they have to like go through all these obstacles. They get to Dionysus, she turns him to gold. And then there's this like 50-page juggernaut of them trying to like get off this island, because at sunset, the day they arrive, if they're still on the island when it like sinks back into the ocean, they have to like stay on the island forever, and they don't want to do that. So Triton like sacrifices himself, so he's now like tethered to the island. But what pissed me off about the last like 150-ish pages was that it was straight intense. There was just like, there was no break. It was just like 100 pages of the most intense stuff back to back to back to back. It was too much. It was too much. It could have been 50, 80 pages less than it was. One thing I was thinking for like the entirety of the last portion is that it read like a Percy Jackson book. It read like a more intense, more teenagery Percy Jackson book. And it maybe didn't need to. So I just opened Goodreads to rate A Curse of Gold, and this book doesn't have page numbers on Goodreads. It's 17,300% of the way through. God. I actually just changed it to 3 stars just because 4 stars didn't feel right after that ending. So I'm editing this video right now and I'm realizing that I have a lot of footage. Like I've only read 3 books and I have a half hour's worth of footage, and I don't want an hour-long video. So I'm going to end this video here. I'm going to continue this in part 2, which is starting like now. I've downloaded the next book I'm going to read. So I'll see you soon for that.